What is going on, all you Pokemon collecting maniacs out there? This is Ryan, the PikaPikaPapa, and here we are doing again what we do every single month. We're going to be looking at the top 20 singles cards from every Sword and Shield set that has a booster box, and we're going to be seeing how those prices have moved month over month. Now, as you can see, we have been doing this since September of 2023. We will continue this for as long as the channel exists. We're going to do it for it, and it has been fascinating to see these price movements. Now, I think it's important to kind of frame this up. So I pull this information on the 15th of every single month, or as close to the 15th as I can, maybe a day or two in advance or after, depending on how my work schedule is in real life. But I pull this on the 15th of every single month. So I'm very consistent with that because I think it's important to make sure that you have a full month for these prices to move. However, you're going to be watching this later in the month because guess what? Me and the family are going on vacation. So the data was pulled on the 15th. Things may have moved a little bit from then until now, but I wanted to make sure that I had some content that was shot for you guys to have while I'm out floating in the ocean somewhere. So that's why if you see some price differences, it is what it is. But again, no matter what, irregardless of when I launch these videos, I always pull the data at the exact same time every single month just to keep things consistent. So with all of that out of the way, no surprise to any of you, we had another very, very strong month in terms of price appreciation in the Sword and Shield block, right? Last month was absolutely Looney Tunes, like up 35.69% in May versus April. That is insane. That is not even healthy. That is just out of this world FOMO in the market, right? Now this month, we still saw a pretty aggressive gain. Again, we're talking about the span of 30 days. We're talking about a 1 month difference. So from May to June, it went up 11.38% in terms of the top 20 singles cards from all of these Sword and Shield sets that have booster boxes. And look all the way back to September. In September, the total value for the top 20 cards in all of these sets, right, all of these ones that have booster boxes, was $6,790. And then look, from September to October, it dropped in value. Those top 20 cards, they dropped 7.48%. And then in November, it dropped 2.75%. December, we saw a little bit of an uptick. People were probably excited because of Christmas, but then guess what? January, it fell again. February, it fell again. And then look, it has gone absolutely crazy for the last 4 months. So this is not only an awesome opportunity to kind of look at this and just be in awe and amazement with what's going on in the Sword and Shield single card market, but it also talks about the value of being a long-term investor, the value of being somebody who's not flipping cards super fast. Because what I thought was really cool is when I looked at this, from September till April, you were underwater, even though March was positive, even though April was positive, even though December was slightly positive. From September to April, if you had every single one of these top 20 singles cards from all these Sword and Shield sets, you would still be down 2.7%, which is incredible, right? Like, that is absolutely insane to think about. It started in September at $6,790, and 2 short months ago in April, it was at $6,606. But guess what? If you had the wherewithal, if you had been adding during all of those down months, if you had said, hey, listen, I believe in these alt arts, I think Sword and Shield is a big bad era, I think that people are going to be all over it. If you had been slowly grinding and slowly adding, then in May and June, you saw the fruits of your labor, because from September till June, you're up 47%. That is why when we talk about investing in any type of market, time in market is better than timing the market. You're never going to know the top, you're never going to know the bottom, and just adding those 2 months, May and June, just adding those 2 months takes it from a negative 2.7% return to a positive 47% return. That is absolutely incredible. If you have singles cards that you believe in and that you think have a great long-term price appreciation perspective, never hesitate to pull the trigger. Buy at a fair price. You're not always going to get a great price. You're not always going to get the best price, but understand what that price is and buy at a fair price. I thought that was a really cool takeaway here on slide number 1. Now, the other thing that's really cool is look at when they started to pop off. I'm talking about the singles cards, right? May and June is when we saw these 2 really big price jumps. Now, when we look at the booster boxes on the next slide, we see that they jumped a little bit earlier. Again, September to October, this is the exact same time frame, September to October. The booster boxes, all of them, so if you had all 12 of the booster boxes from the Sword and Shield era in September, the value of those is down 2.28% from September to October. Then in November, it was down another 2.34%, and then in December, it was down about 0.5%. Then things start to get interesting. January, we see pretty good growth. February, it's muted a little bit, but still 2% over the course of a month is really solid. Then in March and April, we saw double-digit gains, and then in May we saw it go from 12% to 6%, and now in June it's up 1.48%. The interesting thing is we have seen a lag. We saw the booster boxes pop before the single cards prices popped. So now in June, now that we've seen a reduction in the growth of the booster box prices, what's thinking in the back of my head is, are the single cards going to follow suit? We've already seen, you know, the previous month, the month-over-month growth in the singles cards was 35%. This month it was what, 12%? So still really solid, but are we going to start to see that the booster box prices are kind of slowing down a little bit? Are we going to start to see that in the single card space? Well, we're going to look at a whole bunch of cards and have a ton of fun talking about it, and I think there's all kinds of awesome learnings from this. So with all of that being said, listen, if you enjoy this type of data-driven content, obviously we do this every month, but we do so much more than just this video series. So if you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, go ahead and do that. We'd love to have you as a member. If you like the content, give us a thumbs up. And if you have questions or comments, drop them down below. So with all of that out of the way, let's get into this. Comment on the comments thing. It's going to take me a while to get back to you, right? Because I'm usually really good about responding. But again, remember, I'm on vacation, so give me a little bit of time when it comes to responding to comments. So with that out of the way, here's Silver Tempest and Lost Origin, and this is the exact top 20 cards, and this is the prices right here. And you can see that there is a lot of strength at the top of Silver Tempest. Silver Tempest was obviously the last regular set that came out in Sword and Shield. I think we're seeing a lot of the price growth in Silver Tempest was muted for a long time. But what was interesting to me when I look at this is there's a lot of red there in that Lost Origin slide. The value of the top 20 cards in Lost Origin was actually down 1% month over month, and we don't see a lot of red as we're going through the Sword and Shield era. And not only is it down a little bit, it's that Giratina card, it's the Aerodactyl card. So the two big chase cards are down 2% and 3% respectively. That's very, very interesting to me, and that's a big takeaway. The other thing that's really cool to me is Silver Tempest is just, it seems to be, I don't know, it seems to have a lot of momentum to it. When you look at it, there's actually more cards that are over $10 in the Silver Tempest set than there are in the Lost Origin set. Now, is that going to be a trend that we continue to see? Is Silver Tempest going to be able to hold on? Are people still just piling in because it's one of the last booster boxes that's available at the Pokemon Center? Actually, it is the last booster box that's available on the Pokemon Center. So I don't know, but it is interesting to see the way that Silver Tempest has been moving. Now, I'm going to say this, I'm so excited to show you the card that I'm going to highlight this month, because every single month I highlight a single card, and this is a little bit self-serving, but I have been such a huge fan of this Blaziken Trainer Gallery card. If you've been watching this channel at all over the last year, you know that I have highlighted this multiple times. I think the fact that Blaziken has an awesome alt art here in the Sword and Shield era, I think that this is just such a cool and relatable and fun Trainer Gallery card. It has absolutely popped off over the last month. You will see that it went from $7 3 months ago, and it has doubled all the way to $14.26 right now. I think alt arts are getting a lot of the love. I think trainer galleries have been flying under the radar for a certain degree. Not all the big names, you know, those Rayquazas are going absolutely crazy. But if you take them out, I mean, heck, even the Pikachu trainer gallery from Lost Origin, and that's in like the high $20 range right now, I still think that is undervalued. And I think in 5 years from now, the card's going to be worth a heck of a lot more than now. So really cool to call this one out. And hey, I'm happy to see my Blaziken. I remember buying this in a PSA 10 holder for 50 bucks. It was an absolute steal. Now I think they're going for 80, 90. And if the raw card price keeps going up, it's going to have even more room to run. Now, the next one's right here. Astro Radiance and Brilliant Stars, and this was a ton of fun for me to look at because I drew some really interesting comparisons that I did not think that I would see. Now, first off, look at the top of Brilliant Stars, right? Brilliant Stars took a little bit of a beating there. The Charizard, the Rainbow Charizard, like all the cards there at the top of Brilliant Stars are down versus last month, and some of them are down double digits. You see down 33%, 14%, 16%, 12%. I mean, that is nothing to shake a fist at. And the Brilliant Stars top 20 cards, because most of that degradation is there at the very top, is down a whole 4%, which is crazy to think of that in such a frothy market that we're in right now. However, guess what? Astro Radiance doesn't have that problem. Astro Radiance popped off as soon as it sold out, and it has continued to build momentum. I mean, my gosh, look at the chase card up 30%. Look at the second one up 21%. Yeah, you've got a couple ones that had some loss there, but guess what? Overall, up 10%. The average of the top 20 cards has increased by 10% month over month, which is just absolutely crazy if you ask me. The other thing that's fascinating is Astro Radiance only has two cards in the top 20 that are under $10. And when you look at them from a booster box perspective, there's only a $13 difference between an Astro Radiance booster box and a Brilliant Stars booster box. So I have three questions around this one. Is Brilliant Stars still being overlooked? Like, is Brilliant Stars, since it's so close in price to Astro Radiance, is Brilliant Stars being overlooked? Is there all this growth that's ahead at $191? Is that a great buy? Is Astro Radiance overpriced? Is 180 bucks for a booster box of Astro Radiance? Is that absolutely crazy? Doesn't have a Charizard, doesn't have any of these real huge names in there. Like, could that be it? Or Is Astro Radiance as good as Brilliant Stars? I mean, could it be a sleeper set? I'm telling you, when we get to Chilling Reign later on in this video, you are going to understand that you don't have to have the biggest and the baddest names, because outside of Evolving Skies, Chilling Reign from a fundamentals perspective is absolutely killing the game. So keep that in mind as we continue to go through this. Now, one of the things that I thought would be really cool is we have talked on this channel a lot about buying these alt arts, the ones that are kind of undervalued, because we think in the long run, way down the road, that these alt arts are going to be very coveted and have a lot of, opportunity for future price appreciation. I wanted to share this B-drill because I think it's a good illustration of the fact that don't have to rush into it. You don't have to hurry in and pick them all up. And even though they're spiking in price, you don't have to FOMO and think, oh my God, if I don't buy this B-drill at $30, $35, $45, like I'm never going to get a chance again. This one spiked to $45 and it's been working its way back down. It's at $33 right now. Now, I don't know if it's going to flatten out there or not, but this is just a good example, is that sometimes the best thing to do is what I don't do when I'm shooting my videos, is to sit back, take a breath, just relax, and then see where the market kind of works its way out. So I thought this was a good example of how not to FOMO. The next card right here we're going to talk about are Fusion Strike and Evolving Skies, and my gosh, I did the most incredible project here, because I looked at Evolving Skies and I said, there are 5 cards here that are over $250. And I look at a ton of data, as you know, and I was trying to think to myself, I'm like, what is the last set? So any set prior to Evolving Skies that has 5 cards over $250. And I couldn't think of it. So I went to my favorite Pokemon data website and I started looking through it, and I was going back and I was going back and I was going back. And I thought I might get all the way to some of the WotC era sets, but finally Unseen Forces in 2005 is the closest set in a timeline to Evolving Skies that has 5 cards over $250. That's incredible. Even Team Up at $2,000 a booster box has nowhere near that kind of heft at the very top from the singles cards. Is that going to be able to hold on? Is that sustainable? Does that mean Evolving Skies booster boxes are destined for $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 if the singles cards are so much? We know they're incredibly hard pulls. I don't know where the heck this is going to go, to be honest with you, but the fact that this set has 5 cards at over $250 right now is absolutely mind-blowing. Now, the other thing that was really cool to me was we saw how last month, the month-over-month growth was crazy high. It was like 35%, where Fusion Strike and Evolving Skies were a big part of that. Both of these sets, one was up 46% month over month, the other was up 48%. And even though they had those huge gains last month, they still ended up being up 13% this month. Now, my big takeaway, the real interesting thing, was both of the big chase cards are down, right? The Moonbreon's down 3% versus last month, and even my dog, my Gengar alt art from Fusion Strike is down 11%. That is nothing to shake a fist at, but it's really cool to see the other cards being able to go ahead and pull everything up. My other takeaway is, hey, we've looked at 6 chase cards now. Guess what? In the Sword and Shield era so far through these first 6 sets, 4 of the 6 chase cards have been down month over month. Is that a sign that things are starting to soften a little bit? Is that a sign that things are starting to normalize? You know, we've been doing these data dives for a long time, and a lot of times when we see this happening, it's a good sign of what lies ahead. So of course, I've got to highlight my man Gengar right here, and you can see over the last 3 months, absolutely shooting up. Now it's starting to come down a little bit. Not a bad thing. Doesn't mean it's not going to be a great card. Doesn't mean that in the long run it won't eclipse its current all-time high. I certainly think it will. But it does mean that the market just might be pulling back a little bit, because things got absolutely batty there for a little while. So still love this Gengar card. Still think it's going to end up as one of the top 3 cards in the Sword and Shield era. And actually, I'm encouraged to see both of these chase cards pulling back just a little bit. And I'm still amazed that I had to go back so far to find a set with 5 cards over $250 in a raw form. Now remember, I said we were going to talk about Chilling Reign. Look at Chilling Reign. Just look at all of that month-over-month growth in Chilling Reign. It is just incredible to me. I mean, when you look from the top and you work your way down, $390, $181, $106, $75, $71, $64, $60, $59, $57. It's just insane. Last month it was up 30%. Now it's up 22%. It is just out of this world. And then don't sleep on battle styles. We have said that for a couple months in a row now. I talk about, we've done this video for a long time. We're starting to be able to identify some trends and some turns in the hobby. And I know not everybody's a huge fan of battle styles, but guess what? It's a Sword and Shield era set that's got alt arts in it. Like, it is going to be just fine. And ever since we have talked about that, that Sleepy T-Tar has been absolutely popping off. And even the booster boxes are. A couple months ago, this was $100, $105 for a booster box, and now it's at $137. The dollar amount isn't that high, but from a percentage gain over the last couple months, it has outperformed almost every other booster box in the Sword and Shield era, which is really exciting, because at the end of the day, guess what? That's what you're chasing. You're chasing overall returns, percentage returns. So I thought that was a really cool takeaway. Chilling Reign, the average card, so the average price of the top 20 cards in this set are $66.89 right now, which is absolutely incredible. I do have some questions about battle styles. As much as I love it, as much as I have been on the sidelines cheering it on this whole way, I'm wondering what it'll be able to hold on to once the Sword and Shield pump kind of dies out a little bit, you know, because once you get out of the Sleepy T-Tar, once you get out of some of the other alt arts in there, like the rest of the set doesn't really excite me. So I don't know, maybe it'll be able to hold on, maybe not, but I will say this, that if you've been riding the Brilliant Star or the Battle Styles wave here the last couple months, you're probably feeling really, really good. And of course, I've got to highlight the Sleepy T-Tar card. Absolutely crazy. You see this 6-month graph right here. It was flat, 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 flat. Then at the end of March, it just absolutely took off like a scalded rabbit. I mean, it went from a $80, $90 card all the way up to $190 right now. The growth of this card has been nothing short of amazing. It's been fantastic to watch it pop off. Now, getting into the beginning of the era, not quite as exciting. We're getting into Vivid Voltage, Darkness Ablaze, Rebel Clash, Sword and Shield base. But look at Vivid Voltage. Vivid sells out and singles are finally starting to pop off. Now, last month, because I had no clue, I had no inclination that Vivid Voltage was going to sell out, I had this call. I said, listen, once Silver Tempest sells out, I think Vivid Voltage is going to be the very next one to sell out, and then it's going to pop off. But guess what? Proves to you that nobody knows what the heck's going to go on. Silver Tempest is still in stock while I'm shooting this video, and Vivid Voltage sold out. And what has happened? Vivid Voltage singles are going nuts. Another set where when you look at it top to bottom, I don't have a lot of faith in it, if I'm being honest. I'm not a huge believer in Vivid Voltage. I'm a big, big believer in that Rainbow Chunkachu at the very top, simply because people went through the pandemic and that was like the card for a while. So I think a lot of people are going to have memories and emotions tied to that card. So I'm a big believer in that. But outside of that, I don't know. I don't think Vivid Voltage has a very bright future in front of it. I think the booster box will do okay long run simply because it's a Sword and Shield booster box. But outside of that, I don't expect huge gains. Now, Darkness Ablaze is proof, living proof, that just because you have a Charizard in the set doesn't mean that you're going to be the biggest and the baddest, because, man, that Charizard has taken an absolute beating. And if you look at it, outside of the Charizard, which is sitting at $21.86, everything below that is $10, and I mean significantly below. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out over time. I don't think there's a lot of there in terms of this Darkness Ablaze set. I feel bad for it. I just think that some sets aren't destined for greatness, and Darkness Ablaze was one of them. So just keep that in mind. I mean, it doesn't always mean just because it has a Charizard in it, think Obsidian Flames. I don't know. I'm kind of a big fan of Obsidian Flames, but just because it has a Charizard in it doesn't mean it's going to do great long term. Now, here we go. There it is. I had to show you the Charizard graph, right? I wasn't sure which card to highlight, but I thought it was interesting to show this because all I talked about was the month-over-month gain. I just wanted to show that this card 1 year ago was at $32. So it has been working its way slowly and steadily down. You've seen these moments where it pops up, moments where it comes back down. But if you were to trend line this out, overall, that poor Charizard from Darkness Ablaze has just had a really, really rough year. Final two sets right here, Rebel Clash and Sword and Shield. And yes, you know I call those big 7 sets the big dominant ones here in the Sword and Shield era, the last 7 that came out. But guess what? Rebel Clash and Sword and Shield ending with some green here. Both of them were up from an overall top 20 card perspective month over month. Rebel Clash is up 5%, Sword and Shield is up 10%. Not a lot excites me about this set, to be honest with you, either of these sets. I do think that it'll be interesting to watch this, and excited that their singles cards prices have gone up, but I do think that once all of this Sword and Shield, you know, I won't call it nonsense. It's not nonsense. The cards are awesome. The era is awesome, and I love that people are excited about it. But I do think that once things start to calm down a little bit, we're going to see some of these singles cards come back down to earth, and I think that we're going to see these settle, you know, in a more realistic range. But the other thing that was really cool for me is, guess what? Marnie's been dethroned from Sword and Shield. That was the #1 chase card, the trainer card in Sword and Shield. We've talked a lot about how trainer cards had kind of their day in the sun, and now they've rotated out. So the new card right there is this Snorlax Rainbow card. We don't see Rainbow cards really high in the list of most valuable cards, but again, Sword and Shield base set just didn't have a whole lot of heaviness to it. So exciting to see this one pop up and be here at the very end. Now listen, we've done Sword and Shield. You know I do the same view for Sun and Moon, and I can't wait to pull that together. I can't wait to show that to you, and I appreciate you. If you made it all the way to the end of this video and you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, what are you doing? Hit that subscribe button. If you have questions or comments, drop them down below, and if you like what you see, give us a big old thumbs up. You guys have an epic one. I appreciate you so much, and I'll talk to you later. Thanks, everybody. Bye.